China has emerged as the world's second largest economy, harnessing growth over the past 20 years by focusing on government-financed infrastructure, including trains, airports, and highways, along with building out a strong manufacturing export sector. China is now embarking on a new strategy to provide ongoing growth in jobs and economic opportunity. Welcome to Game Changers Silicon Valley. My name is Jim Connor. Tonight's show will focus on the structural changes taking place in China and the potential for new opportunities and challenges to our technology base here in Silicon Valley. My guests are David Chen and Jo-ning Ta. Both are successful entrepreneurs with companies serving the Chinese markets. Jo-ning and David, welcome to the show. Let's give our viewers an overview of how you define the old sector, the old business sector in China.
I'm not an economist, but I try my best to interpret. I think old economy is heavily driven by the investments, and also it takes advantage of the Chinese blue-collar cheap laborers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's driven a lot of economic growth in the past 20 to 30 years. But I think that for the new economy, is trying to take full advantage of the talents available in China. Mm-hmm. There are about 7 million students coming out of college every year. And then, but for the knowledge-driven economy, it needs heavily depend on the capital markets. So that's a reform that is undergoing right now.
Within the context, I'll ask you, Jo-ning, there was an old economy, and was there a private sector in the old economy, or was it just the old economy government-dominated sector?
I think it was really kind of government-dominated, so not too much private kind of business at that time, and just a lot of state-owned enterprise, a lot of these iron steel productions, coal mining.
I mean, that created the industrial base of China. You use that to build the infrastructure, build the bridges, the airports, the railways, and that brought a great deal of support, economic support, so people could now have transportation and fly around the country and get in and out and so on like that. So at that, still in the old economy, what was the expectation of a college graduate, shall we say, who would be maybe a four-year degree and maybe a year or two of graduate study? What would they have as an expectation, realistically speaking, to enter that old economy? Was it? I'll let you describe that.
I think for the old economy, the best and brightest, I mean, some of them, they want to go abroad to pursue further studies, but many of them, they want to be government officials, or they want to join a state-owned enterprise. Those will be their dream jobs. And I think the entrepreneurship was there for a while, but diminished, especially in the last 10 years.
So I'll ask you, Jo-ning, from your perspective, and you guys both have slightly different perspectives, both in time and where you were in China. What did you think led to this shift? Was it the government recognizing that, oh, wow, we have this great industrial base and we're building a lot of stuff, manufacturing, but we're not going to grow forever with this because sooner or later this stuff will be built out? What was your perspective of why they had the insight?
Well, I think the things were kind of really started with this internet-enabled globalization. I mean, suddenly when information, when knowledge, and when media become such widely available in China, and which enabled so many possibilities for business, and as some of the companies went public in the early, I think, 99 and year 2000, and suddenly there's this realization there's such a huge potential for both kind of investment, at the same time, a lot of return.
The internet then sort of opened things up a bit, both from a flow of information as well as a service. Is that a fair statement? And you were involved in part of that evolution, I think, weren't you?
Yeah. In 2001, I decided to move back to China to start up my own company called Advanced Info. So back then, actually, it was very hard to raise money from local Chinese venture capital community because the industry was not there at that time. And we were not a mainstream industry at that time because most of the investment opportunities still center around export or state-owned enterprise, right? So we came to the US to raise venture capital money from St. Hill Road. In 2005 and in 2006, we raised money from DCM, we raised money from Sequoia Capital, and then we went public in 2007 at the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, only
Yeah.
2 years after you raised money, you were able to go public?
Yeah, so we generate good return for our investors. Yeah, but things are different right now because I think government see a tremendous transformation power from this type of entrepreneurship because with the BC backing, the knowledge workers, knowledge entrepreneurs, they can start a new companies without the capital savings. They can raise money from external capitalists. And then the company can grow extremely fast. Baidu, Alibaba, pretty much follow the same suit. I mean, they become widely successful, become very powerful players in the Chinese market.
I think your story may be a little unusual, though. Coming here as a Chinese company had to be challenging in the beginning to get credibility. Frankly, a lot of venture capitalists weren't too comfortable with investing in a Chinese company. All of the operations were in China. Is that correct?
Yeah, you were absolutely right. So only at that time we approached many VC firms, but they were not interested at all. Only a few firms like DCM and Sequoia, they have determination. They want to open up China offices. So that's why they look at us as the interesting opportunity. In fact, we were the first ever Chinese company raise money from Sequoia Capital US. We were the first one also pitched to them.
First one that pitched and the first one
Yeah.
that funded you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. And were you in China at this time too?
So my side was different in the sense that I actually was based here, and what was a company called Sina.com, which was the first internet media company which went public here on NASDAQ. That was in year 2000. And I think at that time, that was the first one under the VIE structure and with the ICP license.
So for the purposes of our audience, and it's been relatively new to me also, I'm going to ask you both to explain the VIE, the WOFE, and the license you need from the government. So I'll start out a little bit by saying, to operate in China, any business of any consequence, you need a license from the government, correct?
Correct, but for the content business, I think the requirement is to have ICP versus other business which may not have a stringent requirement.
What does ICP mean?
Internet content provider.
Oh, I see. That's a special license then.
It means that you can distribute information and media.
So you had the ICP, and then you went and formed the VTI, is that right?
Most companies, they only need to be WOFE, which is wholly foreign-owned entity, versus for companies which require to have the ICP license, then you need to have this VIE structure set up.
VIE, what does that stand for?
I think it stands for Variable Interest Entity.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but basically what it really means is that there is an operational entity fully owned by Chinese, and there's a WOFE which has a special contractual agreement with this Chinese operation company.
I see. So the VIE is essentially the corporate entity, I think, and the WOFE allows the foreign investors to participate in ownership. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's a legal innovation. Basically, WOFE is 100% owned by foreign entity, right? Typically based in Cayman Island. And VIE is a 100% owned Chinese company with a license because only Chinese company can get the content license. Then contractually, this company, the WOFE company, control this VIE company and get all the economic interest. So all the shareholders' interest will be passed to the parent company based in Cayman Island.
I see.
Yeah. I think in the old days, because many technology companies, they were losing money, right? So when they want to go public, the only way for them to go public is either in Hong Kong or in the US market. And the US market tend to appreciate those technology companies better than Hong Kong listing. So most of them, they want to go to the US market. I think that's a innovation around the business model and also around legal. Since we cannot go public in the Chinese market, then use those kind of the workarounds to help the company to go public in the U.S. market.
So in your situation, did you use that vehicle, or did you come and incorporate in the U.S. under, shall we say, Delaware?
We incorporate in Cayman Island. Yeah, that's a very typical arrangement. And then we have the WOFE, and then Cayman Island basically through WOFE owns all the economic interest in China. Chinese operations for our company.
I see. Did you have any Chinese investors in that company also?
Besides founders and employees, we also have a local Chinese VC firm called Legend Capital. It's a VC arm of Legend Holding. Legend Holding owns majority share of Lenovo.
Okay, so now let's move ahead a little bit. You have all these people coming out of the university. The government's interested in them getting jobs. If I may surmise or estimate that the old economy is not keeping up in terms of job growth, and therefore, as well as competitive conditions of the world, the government said we see what the internet is. Perhaps it's unstoppable, but let's embrace it and build an economy based on the internet, information age.
Mm-hmm.
So when did this start? How fast did it proceed? I'll let you start with that.
I think recently we can see a lot of market volatility, right? Because of people worry about the Chinese economy. And then in the past, many people from Western countries, they push China to move to the new paradigm. But once Chinese government seriously embark on this new transformation, shifting the gear, people get worried. But I think this is the right thing to do. The current administration is determined to transform the economy, but because the oil economy is not very sustainable, because it also creates a lot of pollution issues. If you look at Beijing, right, one of the reasons many people try to leave Beijing was because of the pollution issues.
And within your SINA role, you were CTO there, I think, right?
I was the VP of Engineering.
VP of Engineering, okay. Was it similar to what we have here now? Did employees have stock options, and did you have shall we say, all-in attitude?
Yeah, so Sina definitely was one of the first Chinese company, which distributed, a lot of options, both in U.S. and also employees in China. So pretty much, I remember when company went public, the CEO, he actually gave a speech and trying to kind of really explain the value of options to all the employees, especially employees in China. Mm-hmm. So that was quite significant.
That had to be a huge event, and it must have set off just a tremendous level of communication for everybody who was involved having a stock option for a company went public to tell their friends and so on like that.
It was definitely an event, and although at that time many China-based employees, they were kind of less involved, at the same time appreciate the options. But I think nowadays the Chinese employees, they definitely fully understand this, and at the same time they take full advantage of this. That's why you have so many millionaires nowadays in China.
So let me try to connect the dots. We had the old economy, the blue collar and all that, and we had the internet come along. Then we had the government realizing they were putting all these graduates out who are pretty smart people who need jobs. And then corporations started to get, I assume, the permission to issue stock options, and the public market started to take over, and the options then became valuable. Then what happened? Did it open up tremendously so you have everybody now participating in this new economy, or is it specific sectors?
I think that's happened a lot to the technology sectors, media sectors, because in those sectors, the people you get, the talent you have, is the driving force for the company's growth. So with the VCs, I think the biggest import from the US, I think is the system, the VC system. How the capital inflow and plus the knowledge workers and also the founders, they get their own shares, and then they all get the incentive to work together.
You have now people participating in the knowledge industries, in the media industries, internet-related industries. And then we've seen now the state-owned enterprises called SOEs now have gotten the thought that, hey, we have old businesses, sector businesses, and we have some new sector businesses. We could spin off some of our new Internet of Things businesses, communications, media, and perhaps incentivize that management team and let that also go public. I visited one company that was doing this, and it was a pretty spirited group. They were quite happy, they were pleased, and they were somewhat, they weren't completely autonomous, but it was their destiny to make something happen. Has this spread, is this isolated, or is it spread throughout these older sectors?
I think those older sectors, whether they are SOEs or POEs. POE means private-owned enterprise. They're all exploring different ways to incentivize their top managers so that they could be more creative. They could be more brave to embrace those new challenges. Yeah.
And we talk a lot about this. That Silicon Valley has a unique philosophy or culture in that you can fail and you're still okay. It's not that we're looking for failure, but if you do fail, it's not the end of the world. You learn from it. You pick yourself up. Is that changing in China? Is failure yet tolerated, or is it still a taboo, if I can use that word?
I think people are become more tolerant towards failure. Yeah.
Are you seeing? Go ahead.
Actually, I feel that many Chinese, they are a lot more even resilient than some of the people here. So in terms of determination, people there are very determined, very resilient.
We'll take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about the role of the entrepreneur in the new economy then. Okay.